Monday, March 12th, 2018, and you are watching SportsBit Betting Insight today from SBRpicks.com. Let's get
Wait
right
a
into
second.
it and set up. What's that?
I
Holy
need more
shit!
energy. That's not. You need a better open. Yes. Boom. Welcome into SportsBit Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy. Monday, March 12th. SportsBit 2.0. Big game breakdown. The doubleheader on ESPN. We'll have the shot clock out with our biggest snubs coming up. Theodore, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. So good to see you. And it's great to be started with SportsBit 2.0. Glad to have you back on board. Let's get right into it. We got a bracket to talk about. Virginia, the number one overall seed. Virginia and Villanova, the top two favorites in the big dance. Some of this seeding made me crazy, Pauly. But what's your first take on what we saw with Virginia and Nova as the two co-favorites? The other number one seeds, Kansas and Xavier, what are they, 18-1 and 20-1? They're not even close to being favorites. That's a top seeds in the big dance.
A lot of money here in Vegas on Michigan State. They're the trendy pick to win it all. A lot of money on Michigan again as the 3 seed. I know at the South Point, huge liability on Cincinnati, who was as high as 125-1. The books will take a bath if Michigan wins it all, and they can make a deep run as well. But I'll tell you, everyone on ESPN, the so-called experts, picked Michigan State to make a deep run. You think they might go out early?
Yeah. I got Michigan State not making the Sweet 16 in my first bracket. We'll do brackets a little bit later in the show, but it's very important to note here. One sportsbook versus another is going to have dramatically different lines on who's going to win it all. William Hill's a great example. Back in February, William Hill took like a $3,000 bet on Michigan to win the championship at 50-1. The bettor's going to win $150,000 if Michigan wins the title. What happens when you take a big bet like that? You're going to adjust the lines down moving forward. So you're not going to get good odds on Michigan at William Hill, for example. And when you go around all the sports books in Vegas and all the sports books offshore, everybody's got liability somewhere. There are dramatic differences from one sports book to the next when you're talking about odds to win it all. This is a great time of year for line shoppers.
Also, if you're in town, and I know a lot of guys coming down from SBR to Vegas, the best setup you're ever going to see is at the Westgate. We got a Jay Cornegay quote here in a second that Teddy will get to, but they opened the theater up for this sucker. It holds over 1,500 people. All the games on a movie screen, huge projector with betting. You can bet right inside there, betting lines all over the place. And I encourage everybody, if you come to town, get the mobile app. Number one, you'll never lose a ticket. And number two, you won't have to wait long in lines, which stretch. Teddy, you know how long those lines go. It's like Super Bowl Sunday. It's 6, 7, and people camp out the night before to get a seat in a sports book.
Yeah, well, when you look at the picture of the Westgate, you're like, are we at the game? No, we're at the freaking casino in the sports book. But the pic right here shows it very, very clearly. Here's a quote from Jay Cornegay from the Westgate talking about how you make book for the big dance. Quote, there's nothing different about the bookmaking except the business levels we expect. We know it's coming. It's been getting bigger every year. Obviously, the mobile app has taken it to another level. Everyone has their own private windows. They don't have to wait in line, and they can wager way more often, way more convenient, and it's played a huge role in the growth of this event. What are they taking? They're taking about half their handle off the betting app right now. That's only going up. But you're absolutely right, Paul. If you're in Vegas, you have to sign up for an app. And the best thing is sign up for 2, sign up for 3. Then you have you can line shop on your phone. It makes all the difference because how many games in the big dance are going to come down to a half point here or a point there? A bunch. These lines are going to be tight throughout.
I wish the committee would talk to Vegas odds makers or odds makers, period. I thought they were supposed to embrace the advanced metrics. You got a problem with the seeding?
There's problems with the seeding all over the place. Kansas is a number 1 seed and Duke is a number 2. Really? Duke, not maybe. Duke will be favored over the Jayhawks in the Elite 8 if Kansas makes it that far. I didn't buy that. Virginia got so screwed for the number 1 overall seed. That is a brutal region. You want a bold prediction? Let's go Arizona State, Syracuse. The winner of the play-in game, I say they go to the Sweet 16. You heard it here first. TCU and Sparty
Nice.
going down. And I've got a bunch of them. I filled out a couple of brackets last night. One of them I had number 3 against number 5, Michigan versus Ohio State meeting in the Elite Eight. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And the same bracket at number 3, Texas Tech against number 5, West Virginia in the Elite Eight. So clearly, I'm not enamored with many of the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. This is a deep field, Pauly.
I agree with you there. Correct me if we disagree on this. Gonzaga would be favored on a neutral against number 1 seed Xavier. I love Gonzaga's draw. I love Cincinnati's draw. If they meet Virginia for the right to go to the Final Four, first one to 40 wins that game. I think Bucknell can give Michigan State a scare. And Houston and Florida, I feel the same way about these two teams. They could lose their first game or go to the Elite Eight Final Four.
I'm with you on both those squads. The Cougars in particular, there's enormous upside on this Houston team. And yet, I don't love their first round draw. They could be a shocker early. What do you think? Some bad beats, bad bets? Let's go for it.
All right. How about what happened yesterday with Harden? Big game coming up tonight, which we'll get to with the Spurs and the Rockets. So no Harden against the Mavs. And you saw the markets go crazy there. Houston 12.5 bet down to 10, and a big drop in the total. It was tight at the half, and then the Rockets ran them out. But the big difference between this team and last year, they played defense.
Yeah, and also, we're talking about Harden as the MVP. I'm not buying it because the Rockets can win games without Harden in the lineup. That's why, if you're asking me, it's going to be LeBron, it's going to be Anthony Davis, it's going to be Giannis, probably as my first 3 choices. Even though Harden's having a season right there with all those guys, Rockets can win without Harden. And boy, the defense they're playing has been really, really good of late. What about Tiger yesterday? Did you see that? Going into the final round, there were shops that had the field minus 300, Tiger plus 250 into Sunday. And now all of a sudden, Tiger, with his, second place finish, becomes this major betting story for the Masters. But look at the odds. He's the 3rd guy listed at the Westgate right now. Tiger Woods, he just won't go away. Heck of a run yesterday, but is he a real story for the Masters? I'm not so sure.
No, that's horrible. I don't care if you bet him at 50 to 1 a couple of weeks ago. It's a horrible bet. He hasn't won a major in over 10 years. It's ridiculous. The fact that he played well this past tournament, I don't know how he made the birdie putt on 17, but a chance to force the playoff. That he hasn't won a tournament in over 4 years, hasn't won a major in 10 years. 10 to 1's ridiculous. He's become a sympathetic figure now. Media, everyone feels sorry for him. They want to see him to make a run. It's never going to happen again. I don't think he'll ever win a major. How about the T-Wolves getting off the mat? Big win against the Warriors. They took money.
Sure. There was a couple of big games to talk about. We have, a bad bet with the Raptors-Knicks. That game took under money. 218 down to 216. We landed 238. The bettors are like, early start. Plus the clock's moving ahead with the spring forward business. Well, everyone's going to be sluggish. Everyone was sluggish, but the Knicks were really sluggish on defense. They gave up 132. Game flew over the total. That was a bad bet. And you talk about that T-Wolves game. That was really bad for the books. Minnesota took heavy money. The under took heavy money. They both cashed. Minnesota 109, 103. And that wasn't the only one. Lakers and over took money against the Cavs last night and both cashed there with relative ease. Lakers 127, 113. And Cleveland, another no-show on the defensive end of the court.
Coming up next, we'll get to the Spurs and the Rockets. We'll kick off the doubleheader on ESPN and the Association next on SportsBit 2.0. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Time for a big game breakdown. Spurs and the Rockets. Rockets at home are 12 and 211 the total. Western Conference standings. Rockets have a stranglehold on that 1 seed now. Remember, it's essentially a 3-game lead over Golden State because they have the tiebreaker as they won the season series. And the Spurs are 37 and 29, only a game and a half out of the 4 spot, but just 1 game from falling all the way down to 11. They played twice this year. Rockets are 2-0, 124 to 109 at home. They were laying 8, and they won 102 to 91 at San Antonio, laying 2.5. There's no such thing as a bad spot for this Rockets team, Teddy. Look at this tough schedule they've been able to navigate here.
Tonight's the bad spot. What Houston has done since the All-Star break has truly been remarkable. And my power ratings right now, there's no question. It's Rockets 1, Warriors 2. It's not even close. I think I have 2.5 points difference between the two. Might even be up to 3 by now. But this is a nasty spot for the Houston Rockets. It's their 5th game in 7 nights. That's a brutal stretch. The last 4 have all come on the road. It's the rare home game after a road trip with no day off in between. You know what it's like when you get home from a trip? It's a pain in the ass the first 24 hours. Rockets won't have to deal with that, as well as playing their 5th game in 7 nights, 8 straight court changes. But when you look at some of the numbers, I mean, look at yesterday, a great example against the Dallas Mavericks. This is something that the Rockets could not have done last year or the year before or the year before or the decade before. They did it yesterday. What do you do when you're playing back-to-backs, big game tomorrow night? You got 3 minutes left of a blowout win. You shut that game down. What did they do? Yesterday, 3 minutes left, 103-77, final score 105-82. Shut that game down. Nice job for Dallas. And, of course, or for Houston, I should say. And even without James Harden in the lineup yesterday or Ryan Anderson, great depth, flawless rotation, literally flawless for the first night of back-to-backs. Look at this graphic. All the key guys managed minutes very well. The reserves were playing in the 4th quarter. Good coaching from Mike D'Antoni to get his team ready for tonight's ball game.
And I think we're at like 35-2 now. The record when Capella, Harden, and Paul all play. Unbelievable stat on the Rockets. Now with the Spurs, they're 7-12 in their last 19. 14 of their last 17 games are against teams with a winning record. The offensive struggle is their 18th in offensive efficiency. Are we sure they're going to make the playoffs, Teddy?
No. I mean, I don't like anything about San Antonio right now. I shouldn't say anything. I don't like much about San Antonio right now. After this game, we're going to see if the Spurs have anything in the tank. They get 6 straight at home after today. And the rumors are Kawhi Leonard is going to return on Thursday against New Orleans. Can they hang on one more? You talk about 7-12 their last 19. They're 2-10 in their last 12 ball games, and one of the 2, I had them large in that game. They weren't any good against Memphis. They stole a 2-point win. The Grizzlies almost beat them at home. So the other one came against Cleveland. It's not like they're beating anybody good right now. But when you look at those numbers, and let's get that graphic up there one more time with the offensive and defensive numbers. Defense is fine. The offense is way down compared to last year. Number 7 in the NBA in 2017, number 18 this season. And a lot of the offensive issues is too many old guys that can't create their own shots. Yeah. Look what happened in the game against OKC on Saturday. At one point in that ballgame, San Antonio had Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Danny Green, LaMarcus Aldridge, Pau Gasol all on the floor at the same time. That's a combined age of 175, Pauly. They're all on the wrong side of 30. Worth noting, they're not going to have Aldridge or Ginobili in the lineup tonight to face the best team in the NBA. That's never a good sign for San Antonio.
Up next, game number 2. It's the Heat and the Blazers. Portland is 8 at home, 210.5 the total. I'm buying Portland. They've won 9 in a row, and they're 8-1 ATS during that stretch. They are the 3 seed in the West. They're going to get the 3 seed. Miami with an impressive win against Washington the other night. They're the 7 in the East. But as far as Golden State, Teddy, the key to this turnaround and this run they've had, defense and rebounding.
For the Blazers, sure. I mean, the Blazers are doing a lot of things right now. They had that home game versus the Warriors before the All-Star break. That was a game of Golden State. They were sitting a couple of guys. I remember having to play on Portland in that game. It was an easy bet, and they won wire to wire. Well, that started a pretty nice streak for this Portland squad. 9-0 straight up, 8-1 against the spread. They're covering by more than 77 points during this 9-game span. That's impressive. So you're talking about upside. How much upside does this team have? They blasted Miami the first time these squads met. They were +3. They won by 12 on the road at Miami. And when you look at some of these numbers, the points per 100 possessions since the All-Star break, they're lapping the field in some regards. The offense, number 11. As you mentioned, the defense, number 2 in the NBA since the All-Star break. The rebounding percentage, number 4 in the NBA since the All-Star break. Those are impressive numbers. And, of course, they've got a superstar. They've got a guy with MVP swagger right now in Damian Lillard, who's averaging a career-high 53% effective field goal percentage, 35 points per game over the last 10. Pauly, he's been a monster.
Quote from Lillard, I've been saying it since we've been on this run. The difference has been the contributions we're getting from everybody. Everybody's coming in and impacting the game. And the graphic with the defense and the rebounding rate been incredible with their improvements to Miami. And we love Spoelstra. Look what he did last year with the team when they got up to the slow start. Whiteside is doubtful tonight. Wade is out, but they didn't skip a beat against Washington when they dropped 129 points on them.
Yeah, I mean, the Heat are remarkable in that regard. You know, this is a team that last year there were more disasters for Miami with injuries and difficult situations than any team that I could think of. And what they do, 31-10 down the stretch. Monster run, almost made the playoffs after a 10-31 start. So, you know, this is a nightmare trip for Spoelstra. 3 West Coast games in 5 nights. Hassan Whiteside's doubtful. Dwayne Wade's out. Spoelstra juggles, man. He juggles as well as anybody. You know, without Whiteside and Wade against the Wizards, didn't matter. 11 players won at least 10 minutes. It scored 129 points. This is a Miami team, 9-1 with a couple of pushes against the spread in their last 12. Only 1 point spread loss in their last 12 ball games. That loss came to the streaking Lakers. Don't forget for a minute what Spoelstra did with this squad last year. I do not bet against the Miami Heat. They are bet on or pass for me. And, of course, you get the quote from Goran Dragic. Everyone's on the same page. Every night somebody else is going to have a big scoring game. It's awesome to have this kind of rotation. That's what the Heat have right now. They are a very, very deep squad. And for as good as Portland is, you know, Portland's going to win a first-round series. I don't think they're going to necessarily go a whole lot further than that. Same story with Miami, but Miami's catching 8 in this game. We'll get back to this one when it comes to play of the day time.
All right, very good. Can't wait for the first round of the NBA playoffs. Up next, we fire up the shot clock. Biggest snub by the committee. That's next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today and SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on SportsBit 2.0. Time for a new segment, the shot clock. Let's fire it up. Biggest snub, a lot to choose from. Of course, again, Teddy, the mid-majors got the shaft. You got a problem with St. Mary's not getting in with 28 wins.
It wasn't even close. If you're talking about who got shafted the worst, the Gales were a really good team this year. By my numbers, Gales are favored over 41 teams in this field. Those are actually Ken Palm numbers, where the Gales, 41 teams are going to be favored against. 28-5 teams are supposed to get in. St. Mary's got royally screwed by the committee, as usual, shafting the mid-majors.
Yep. And what happened to the advanced metrics and using those this year? BPI, St. Mary's was 26. Notre Dame was 33rd. Our stats guy was crying that Notre Dame got shafted, as he said they could have been a 6th seed, and he's right. Remember, they played Virginia Tech on a neutral, and they were favored in the ACC tournament. I'm going with USC, 12 wins in league play, 23-11 overall. The second-place team in the Pac-12 and went to the conference title championship, and they don't get in. And it was the highest RPI for a major power conference team that got left out since they went to 68 teams as well. USC finishes in second place, but they take Arizona State, who finished in 9th place. As Enfield said, why don't you just seed the tournament in December? Why don't we even play the conference games? That was ridiculous. USC doesn't get in. Unbelievable, Teddy.
Yeah, St. Mary's versus USC. You can make an argument for both those squads, but I don't know how many other squads you can make an argument for getting completely shafted. In my mind, those two teams stand out. You know, you make a case for Middle Tennessee. I wouldn't, but St. Mary's and USC, you got pretty strong, compelling arguments for the committee hosing the little guys, although USC is not a little guy. But note the fact that the teams on the bubble with some issues when it comes to a federal investigation, like Okie State and the like, all those teams got left out. Arizona, the only one that got in.
That's an excellent point. Those teams went 0 for 3. Good point. Also worth noting, if Davidson loses Sunday, Notre Dame would have been the last team in. So the ACC would have got 10 frickin' teams in. Unbelievable. Play of the day, money time. How you been doing? And take it away.
We took away the feature, Pauly. We missed you. Play of the day with me is no fun. Play of the day with us, a lot better. And for today, let's go back out to Portland. We're going to take a look at the Miami Heat, game number 507, plus the 8 against the Blazers. And this is all Spoelstra. In Spoelstra we trust. In Spoelstra as a dog we trust. This is Miami's role, and they continue to be a point spread machine. Again, only one ATS loss in their last dozen games. Give me Miami plus the 8. That's our play of the day.
All right, excellent. At Teddy_covers, I'm at Real Sportsbit. New account, picks, and all the videos will be out there. Teddy does a great job with that. Interact with us. We'll get back to you. Any questions, and we'll take it away tomorrow as we get the play-in games coming up. We'll talk to you on Tuesday on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.